Welcome to the TheBonsPodShow, and welcome to these collaboration podcast episodes with Redline Racing. For the first guest, I have with me Mr. Jake Rattenbury, the driver for the Porsche Carrera Cup and for Redline Racing. Jake has had some enormous success in his racing career and has won different championships like the GT Series and the Lamborghini World Championship. He's here to talk about his journey and this year's expectations. Enjoy the episode and feel free to like and subscribe to this channel. Okay, here we go. Hi, Jake. Thank you so much for joining me for the show. How are you?
Yes, I'm very good. Thank you. Yourself?
Very well. I think first off, I should start off by saying congratulations to you in signing off the first full season in the Porsche Carrera Cup. So, how are you feeling about that?
Very, very excited to be honest with you. It's something that I've looked at for a couple of years, and I've been on different platforms. I focused a lot of racing in Europe, and to be honest with you, I thought racing in the UK would never be an option again due to sponsorship and just the availability of it compared to the possibilities in Europe. But when with COVID hitting and everything, it really give me a better focus to race in the UK, which was better for me at the moment. Certainly with work going on and everything, and the field in the Porsche Carrera Cup is so talented. It's going to be a great season, and it's a lot bigger than what was happened last year on the grid. So it'll be good fighting, I think.
And how did Redline Racing come in the picture? I want to run down how did the contract happen? How were you approached? What was that like?
I've known of Redline since I started on the. I started in 2008. They were still in the championship then, racing Porsches. So I've known of them, I've seen them, but when I actually started physically looking at different options, I didn't really have an input, a way of in with Porsche. A lot of other makes I do, but not with Porsche. So I seen a Instagram post randomly enough, and so I contacted him and I got in touch with Simon, and we just hit it off really well, had a really good relationship, and he said, look, come on, we'll try it out for the last round last year. And it was just something I'd stopped my racing in Europe, and I was like, nothing to do, so let's do it. Yeah, let's have a go. And it just went from there, and I just had such a great experience. The guys, they're great. They're really talented. They know what they're doing. There's not me having to have any input really in what we need to do. It's just them going, this is what happens. So it's just like they know the score, they know it in and out, and having people around you like that it really makes it a lot easier.
You said that you stopped your racing when you were in Europe. Why did you take a break and then come to UK? Why did you stop racing in Europe?
Mainly because of the travel restrictions. So so last year the season started a little bit later, and then I went to Italy, and that was we're in the Europe.
The epicenter.
It was the epicenter of it, and I was like, went there, and I was like, put on edge about it all. Just the restrictions. It was changing every 2 minutes, and there was speculation that the rest of the season wouldn't finish. So I was like, it was going because I was really good because I had a really good team, I had a good teammate, and it was just a bit gutting on it all really. But I just had to think sensibly of what to do.
Mm-hmm. And during the COVID time, I guess the lockdown period and everything, how did you keep the interest there for the sport? I mean, run us down, were you following a fitness regime, or were you how are you keeping up with the races and keeping the mindset like a racer?
It was a bit difficult, really. I was working throughout the whole thing, so I never had any days off. I was constantly, I was in work every day. I think I was working 7 days a week straight because I work on my other job. I work in the food industry. Food storage and transportation. So we were supporting all the all the supermarkets, getting it to the shops and getting it going. So it was difficult, but luckily my sponsor made me buy a nice simulator. So I was every
Ah.
night there at home when I was like having a little go on the simulator. Don't get me wrong, I never went on it as much as everyone else that was, in the racing world went on it. Mainly because I was just work every day. If I wasn't, I would have loved it. I would have probably be doing all the sim races. But you know, regarding what you said about like keeping the interest and stuff, something, if you're in motorsport, it's very hard, very very hard to lose interest in it because it's that good. And it's not an interest; it's a lifestyle. So
Ah.
it's not something you can just fall out of love with. I've had terrible seasons and I've had great seasons, but even when you have terrible seasons, you don't fall out of love with it or get bored of it.
Mm.
So it was a big going because I had last year I had a factory supported drive lined up, and I was going to be traveling the world doing all the 24-hour races in the world, and then COVID stroke. It was like gone out of the books. Then it's gone, so I couldn't do any of that. So luckily, the team that I was actually meant to be driving with pulled something else together. So I just did the European Championship.
Mm.
Um, but
And what team were you
yeah.
in when you were doing the European Championship?
A team called Lipa Motorsport, a
Mm.
German team. They're very, very experienced in Lamborghinis. So I've
Mm.
won the Dubai 24-hour with them. I've won, won quite a few races with them, but I came third in the championship in 2019 with a teammate. I just said, I've got to stick with them, in Europe if I was going to be in that team. But they don't race in the UK, and they don't know Porsches like Redline.
Mm. Right. You said that the motorsport industry, it's sort of like a lifestyle. It like gels with you. So tell me, when or what was the first time when you were introduced to this lifestyle, to this sport? When did you like develop the very first interest and this love towards it?
It's all because it's my dad, really. My dad got me into it. I think he had a midlife crisis and chose motorsport for him. So he had a couple of friends that did it, and then he went to watch and just started. And then he done some club racing, and that was it. From about 4 or 5 years old, I was introduced to motorsport and just never let it go. Then
Hmm. And
it was.
what was the first car that you drove for a race? Was it go-karting? Because I've seen that a lot of races start with go-karts, right?
No, I never did any go-karting. I jumped straight into cars, which I think, it's a difficult one. It's got pros and cons. You do your learning publicly instead of privately. Uh, so, I was my first ever like big race was in front of 35,000 people and on the TV to a few million people. Whereas like, go-karting, you're behind closed doors, you learn everything. So I had a couple of tough years, but I'm racing against people that I was 14 when I first raced, and I'm against people that are, I think they've been racing since they were like 6 or 8.
30,
So it was tough. It was a tough couple of years.
35,000 people for the first race. Wow. And
Yeah, back then I just didn't. Yeah, it was something I'd never experienced before. And you went out and you just seen like around Brands Hatch, and that every single bank is full of people and things. And I definitely think luckily we're coming to the end of the restrictions now, and
mm,
when the restrictions do ease completely, and we get everything under control, I think we'll go back to those massive crowds because the love for the sport is still there. Um, and just seeing motorsport live instead of over the TV is a completely
mm,
different experience. I think everyone hunts
yeah.
for that feeling, and you find a lot of people that go to the racing, especially touring cars. When I raced on it, and this was 10 years ago, they went every race every year, and they're still going now. So a lot of people are still going, because they just love it, and when you experience it, you can't stop it.
Mm, right. I can agree to it. I think with all the races now, once the restriction is lifted and when the crowds are coming in, it's going to be again those goosebumps feeling because it's been almost a year since you're not seeing any fans out there.
Well, in motorsport, it'll be even longer because the pandemic hit in March and the season was off
Uh,
since October time.
yeah.
So you're talking like a year and a half of
Mm,
plus sport. That feels a long time.
right, right, right. And before you competed in your championships for like the GT3 series, the GT4, you started with uh, Ganita Racing, right? I might be mispronouncing it.
Jeanette,
Jeanette, sorry.
Jeanette.
Jeanette Racing, right? That's a Ford engine, right? That you're driving,
That was a Ford engine, Ford
right?
Z-Tech, yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about that race. How is it like when you're in a Ford engine and then now in a Porsche? Before that, you were in a Lamborghini engine.
Yeah, it's every race since that I've stepped up, I've tried to do it methodically and sensibly, and the reason for stepping into the next one. Janetta Junior is where I started, which I said when I was 14. That was, that's a stepping stone in. That's the only racing you can do at that age. Um, I think at the time, actually, you could race Janetta Juniors or Saxos. I had no thought of ever wanting to do front wheel drive racing.
Hmm.
So it was Benetez or nothing. So at the age of 14, believe me, it's the fastest thing you'll ever experience in your life.
How
but
fast is it though?
I think you get about 120, 130 in it, maybe. You
That's
know,
miles per hour,
it's all
right?
about miles per hour. Yeah, so they're it's
And it's
fun little
fast.
cars. Yeah, for a little 14-year-old, especially where I came out of no experience anything and then jumped straight into a race car. So it's crazy if you look back now and think of I'm what 27 now and I was 14 when I started. You think, oh, I had half of what I know now back into Janetta Junior racing and life would be a lot easier.
Yeah.
But that everyone at that age, a lot of people were the same thing. So.
Right. And um, talk to me about the process of being a race car driver, because I did read I have been following Formula One for a while, and over there I've heard that you need to have your neck strong, you need to like keep working out. Talk to me about your process, the process of fitness, developing your reaction skills. How is that like? What exactly you have to like keep focusing on?
It's just an all-rounder, really. I focused a lot of my career was on long distance races. So, it's no sprint races. I think the shortest race I've done, you know, coming into Porsche this year, this is going to be the shortest racing I've done for 6 years.
Hmm.
So everything else, the shortest race I did was 55 minutes, but and then I was doing a lot of 12-hour, 24-hour, 3 hours. So that's that's when you get to the 24-hour goal, you know, a lot of it's very physical, but it's so mental strength, and you've got to prepare yourself to go past that barrier of tiredness, thinking I can do this, just keep focus and not drop. And I do a lot of spinning, cycling and things like that. I can't do a lot of upper body. I've got a lot of damage to my shoulders. I've had that rebuilt too many times to be able to do too many weights. So something this year is going to be a lot different for me compared to previous years where all I've done is long distance races. This is going to be the shortest racing by a good half an hour just for one race. So
That's how many laps?
it ranges from track to track really. So you're going to go to Brands Hatch, it's like the Indy track. That'll be I think 50 laps, maybe well, I don't know, maybe more, a little bit less, but then you got others. There's about 20 laps, so it's not that long. Where I'm used to 24-hour races and 3-hour races, 12-hour races, so it's going to be a quick little sprint race for me. So that's something I got to register on as like a quick burst, not
Hmm.
let myself relax or focus long term. So just physical. I like to do endurance things, spin class. On my bike, I can't do a lot of upper body things. My shoulder, I've got a lot of damage to my shoulder, so it's just little bits and just muscle memory in the car. I just don't really struggle with things like that, but
As
just get
a
back in.
as a driver, what form of races have you always preferred? Do you prefer having that long form race where it's like 24 hours, or these short form races? Because here I think here you need to act really quick, whereas for the long races you just need to have a have a different form of thinking towards the race, being calm, being composed. Which one do you prefer?
Me personally, I prefer a long distance race. Give me a 24-hour race over a 20-minute race any time, any day of the week. You know, the thinking and the back, you know, behind it, and it's a completely different mindset. You know, it doesn't take, you know, these sprint races is no downplaying them. They are hard, but you know, you turn up on a Thursday and you test on a Friday, a couple of sessions test on Friday, and you're racing on a Saturday and Sunday. Whereas like with the 24-hour race, you turn up on the Monday and you just so much prep and, you know, everything into it, and there's so much you know, strategy and everything. It's a real team player story, you know, compared to you know, this, you get in the car, don't get me wrong, the guys in the sprint races and the mechanics and the team managers, they're a great, everything is very important, and you need them all together. But for example, your race is, unless you have a breakdown, your race
Hmm.
is decided by the way you react at that one time, or react in certain situations, where the 24-hour race is about 30 different people all into one, you know, and each person can change a factor of that race. And you know, it is the long distance, and the playing it out, and the psychological performance you need for that is 100 times more than what you need for a sprint race. But this is something I'm gonna have to re-prepare myself for, because now I have to start preparing for a sprint race compared to the long distance races. So it's something, you know, I am very excited for. It is hard. It's going to be a difficult transition for me at the start. So I'm you know, I'm not blind to the fact that it's not going to be something I'm going to just jump out of the box and be ready for. But it'll be there. It'll be
R-
ready.
Right. And you've also named as a leading talent for the Lamborghini Super Cups that you've also that you've also raced in. So tell me, what is or what forms of differences you're expecting in racing in a Lamborghini compared to a Porsche? How is it going to be in terms of competition and organization? How would it differ?
Competition wise, you know, no matter where you race, you know, the levels of racing in Porsche, in Lamborghini, they're all very high. You've got some world class drivers in it, so it's going to be high. Um, and you know, from a car point of view, you know, a Lamborghini is a mini GT3 car, even though a Porsche
Hmm.
is literally in the name is GT3. It's nowhere near a GT3 car. You've got no traction control, you've got no ABS, you've got almost zero aerodynamics on it compared to a GT3 kind of Lamborghini, which of all three, they've got very high aero, complex
The
ABS, and complex.
downforce.
Yeah, it's all these things. So they're two different things. They are two different animals. And you know, I drove the Porsche last year, and all I can explain to you is it's the rawest kind of motorsport. You know, it takes me back to my old days where, yes, you're in a Ginetta Junior, but it's like a faster Ginetta Junior. You had no aero or anything then. It's just driver talent. So you know, it's something that I'm very much
Look forward to
trying.
it.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the challenge, because it is going to be what I like to call the biggest challenge of my motorsport career,
Mm.
because the difference in it is massive. I think if I went from Porsche to GT3, it'd be great. But if I'm going now from GT3 to Porsche, you shouldn't have done that. But but it's going to be fun, and you know, I'm racing against some people who've got a lot of experience in the car, and that's that counts. You know, seat down time in these cars. So you know, there's people in my class in the race that've got a couple of years under their belts on these cars. So it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting. Just gotta
Right.
get your elbows down, hope for the best.
Right. And speaking of that, I think before the interview, I was looking at your Instagram, and over there, I really found this picture that I think, am I sharing it over here? Okay, now it's here. Uh, so I know that racers have they experience something like this, but I want to talk about this. What had happened over there?
So
That's a perks of doing interviews and researching on an individual.
yeah. So luckily, I will. You know, that wasn't me that crashed the car. I'm very thankful of that. Unfortunately, it was my teammate who I'm stood next to. He had that was in Jerez in Spain in 2019 in the World Finals. On the last race of the European Series, he had just straight up brake failure going into into the hardest braking corner on the track. So he just went straight on into the wall. He's very lucky. He did injure his elbow. He had a bit of concussion, and he had a couple of, I think he had bruised ribs and stuff. So he actually, from that race, he stepped out for the rest of the weekend because there's another 2 races from that. But yeah, he hit the wall at a horrible angle, and yeah, it broke everything. I think there was 2 panels on the car that weren't damaged, but overall, that car, the chassis was put in the bin.
Hmm.
You know. But funny enough, I have the door I'm stood next to. I have that door in my garage.
What about you? Have you ever been in a um, let's say a racing accident that has had a strike on your memory and like made you rethink this career?
No, I've not had anything that's like I've damaged my head, for example. Don't get me wrong, I've had some crashes. I think any driver that has done anything has had some crashes. That's the parcel of racing, and that's why there's such a big push for safety measures. It's the cars are safe. They are very safe for what you do. If you did what you did on the road, then you'd be asking a different question. But I've been on fire a couple of times. I've Formula Renault. I've had a couple of big crashes, and GD4. I had a couple of big crash. I'm very lucky. Touch wood. I haven't had a very big, touch wood. I'm
Touch
gonna
wood.
touch it again. I haven't had any big crashes for quite a long time. And that's because I think with age you change your mentality of you can quickly think, I've had these experiences. There's a good chance, you got to weigh up. And where I've been doing the long distance racing, that's why I haven't had those crashes, because you've got to think of those at those times and think, is it worth it? What's the possibility of this, ending the race, and things like that. So, yeah, it's never changed my opinion on whether to race and stuff. It's changed, I think, a lot of people's opinions around me. For example, family and friends. Oh, you shouldn't do that because of this and things. But it's you've also, and it is a horrible thing to say, you've got to keep the danger aspect on it, because it keeps. We don't do something because it's boring, and don't do something because it's fully safe. We do it because of the adrenaline and the risks that you take. I'm an adrenaline seeker. I'm a risk taker, and I just love things like that. And it's probably not the best for a long life, but it is what it is. It's what makes me tick. I don't need all the other things everyone else wants, the bad things in life. I just want a bit of adrenaline, and I'm happy.
What would be the craziest memory that you may have had with the races in the past few years? Just one, if you had to pick one that had the most adrenaline rush, an overtake that might have struck your mind, or something related to that. I'd love to hear a story related to that.
It's a bit bad, really. I shouldn't talk about it because I'll probably get in trouble. Well, no, I would have got trouble with it a few years ago. But when I was racing in America, I was racing a famous track, Laguna Seca in California. And I was actually, it was in qualifying. And I was working for Lamborghini over in America at the time. And they found me a car. And, so I thank Chris Ward, who I was working and living with at the time. He sorted this out for me, and it was great. It was amazing. Put me on the grid, and then went into qualifying. Had a problem at the start, and then I only had one flying lap to do. And as I come out onto the pit on the warm up lap, I think it was coming out onto the last corner to do my flying lap. I got sideways and caught my belt, and it unsprung my belt, undid it. And the whole belt, just because they're all on in endurance racing, they're on pull cords, so everything goes off.
It's
So
like this, right? It goes like this.
Yeah, it's a 5-point harness, and everything started coming off. So I was like, oh my god, my belt's come undone, and it's, you know, it's severely dangerous. If I think about it now, you should have stopped. But yeah, I just like carried on and was like, as I was going around the lap, I was doing my belt up.
What
So
was
I was,
what was the speed that you were at when the belt went off? Approximately, that you might have remembered.
I was low at the time because you're coming out of a slow corner, but you know, you get up to 160 odd. So I was still trying to do my belts up and then around the track. And Laguna Seca doesn't give you much time to you know, down a straight. So you felt a bit. That was a lot of adrenaline, and not the right adrenaline.
Mhm.
Well,
That makes you rethink your career as well.
yeah, not really, but you know, the amount. But for like racing wise, just when you win such a big race. So when I won in um, the World Finals in Sepang in Malaysia, that was just a buzz. It was, you know, the buzz of winning that, and then getting told that same weekend, or you know, we want you on the young drivers development program, and back then it wasn't, as no disrespect to any drivers on any now, but back then it was, you get on there for winning. Now you get on there for paying. Let's say it bluntly. You get on, you know, all these drivers on young, you know, there are a few that are on them for good reason, and there's one in Porsche. The one that Porsche do, thankfully, it's done for talent, not for how big your wallet is. So, you know, Harry King's on there now, and he's a very skilled driver. But there's too many. There's too many of these young driver development programs and stuff like that these days. So they're just how big your wallet is. So it was, you know, back then. It was good. It was good to be on one for your talent and for winning. It took me a year of showing my grit and determination to get there, and to get it finally was a relief. That's the best feeling ever. And yeah, I think it took me a couple of weeks to come down from that feeling.
Stay grounded. Keep telling yourself
Yeah.
that. All right, and finally coming down to the final few questions, and these questions are actually about the highs and about the lows that you've spoken about. So you've been crowned the Lamborghini World Champion in 2014 and 2015, if I'm not wrong. Tell me, about those wins, and tell me about that moment when you were crowned as the champion.
Well, it's a perfect. 2015 is the perfect of a high and low of racing. You know, I raced. It was in Sebring in Florida, and I just drove. Again, I was working still for Lamborghini, and I got a drive with Change Racing, and they, you know, they're best team in the USA at the time, and unbelievable bunch of guys. And I raced. I'd never been to Sebring, and it's like it is the well, it was the most painful track I've ever raced at. I was covered in bruises for weeks just because it's just an airfield. And going into that race, there was the two world final races. I think I finished third in the first race or second, and then in the second race the rain started, and this is when, like, you know, it
Actually, the
was.
driver's challenges and the driver's skills are set
Yeah,
in.
yeah, it was, and I don't know what happened to me. I just had one of the best races I've ever had, and I was up. I just took over everyone, and I was running a massive lead. I was coming around lapping people, so I was like, right, I've won the world finals. I've done it. And it was 2 laps to go, and I was lapping people, and a car just come back on me a little bit, or I think I sliced in a little bit too early, and he just touched my rear wheel, but not enough that
Your car
you
would
know,
spin.
no, nothing like that. It just caught it and sliced my tire, and I had a puncture. So I had to then come in, and I finished that race in third. But to my opinion, and all the maths everyone thought we'd done, you know, we just went from with 2 laps to go and winning the world finals, and we lost. You know, we lost the world finals. I was so upset. You know, you just crushed and things like that. And then, you know, no, we didn't know because it was so tight. There was like 4 drivers that could win it, and they were all, I think, you know, points. It was crazy. We didn't understand what was what, and it wasn't until they actually announced it at the awards that no one knew who had won, and I won it by 1 point. But that feeling of being down, I was at the table going, "No, I didn't win it," you know, didn't win, and then to have announced, everyone at the table was shocked. I was more shocked than them, I think, everyone was. And yeah, there was that up, down, and it's just the world of motorsport. It is what it is. Things, you don't do things if it's just all joy, because you get bored of it, and you don't do things that's all bad because it just crushes you. But that's the world of motorsport. It's ups and downs and how you deal with it.
Right. And when you say that, I think it brings me down to the last question of this podcast. So you are 27 years old and you've raced over 100 races with so many different cars, with so many different formats of races. But I want to ask, what has always kept you motivated? What has kept you pushing towards being better and improving the results that you've gotten in the past few years?
I'm a very, very, and there's sometimes a downfall. I'm a very competitive person. I can't. If you walk up the stairs, I got to walk up faster. If you do, if you do anything, if you lift something, I got to lift it. I got to lift heavy. And I've got to be. I'm very, very competitive with everything I do. That just comes from my family. Though we're a very sporty family. My younger brother, he's very competitive. We grew up only 5 years apart, and we've both fueled each other's competitiveness. So anything he did, I had to do, and anything I did, he had to do. And and motorsports just is that pinnacle of that no matter what you do, you could always do better. So there is no, you can sit there and race lower level and dominate, but
What's
you
the
get
fun of
bored.
it?
Yeah. So I'm just stupidly competitive. It's just the best feeling when you do well. So I went on my first weekend in Porsche. I crashed in the first race, and it was the first crash I had in 4 or 5 years. And then I come back and done a podium in the second race. And it's that thing of like, no, we can do this. You can
Keep
do it.
pushing.
And yeah, so it's a great pull. Motorsport is amazing, but I try and do motivation like that of my competitiveness, everything I do in the world and everything I do in life. Sometimes it benefits, sometimes it doesn't, but it is what it is. And as I said earlier on, when you get into motorsport, it is a lifestyle, it's a drug. You cannot let go. I've seen people put their houses on the market and remortgage just to be able to stay into motorsport, and happens because it is bad. It's great.
Right. I think with that said, Jake, we've come down to the end of the podcast, and I wish you all the best for the upcoming races, and and still interested in listening some more interesting stories of your races and the adrenaline rush.
Yeah, the adrenaline rush is probably the worst one, isn't it? But it is what it is. That's what motorsport is, and um, you can get a lot, in life. Having that adrenaline, it really flushes you and keeps you fresh, and gets your heart going. I can sit there and think about racing and get my heart rate going. If you think about certain parts of it, and it is, when you do it, when you experience it, you can understand why. Driving in the wet on the edge of the car, and
When your
I don't.
seatbelt's going away, you still race.
Yeah, that's not the right adrenaline. But I've raced some random cars in my life. I've raced a lot of different things. From Jeanette Juniors, and I went to Formula Renault single series, then into GT4, GT3, then into Lamborghinis, and then I raced in LMP3, the prototype cars. They're great, and then I raced also a random car. I raced an Austin Healey 100, 1954, and it's got no power, but you can't go left without. So if you're going left, you're just drifting. It's great, it's a great experience. So it's everything you do. You just got to put on life on the edge. Got
Right.
to live it back hard.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Jake, for joining me. And I really enjoyed this conversation. And once again, all the best for all the upcoming races.
Thank you very much. Speak to you soon. Bye bye.
Thank you. If you like this episode, please subscribe to my channel. You could also hear it on other audio platforms. The links are in the bio. And I hope to see you again for this TheBonsPodShow.